Thanks. So let's just get started. So first of all, good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the new semesters, and thanks for joining us this morning. We are resuming our efforts on the Smart City Consortium and UT. So we are hoping to use this as an opportunity to bring more students, faculties, researchers interested in the smart city research together. And also we are trying to bridge in the academia research work with a leading industrial application development as well. So we will continue our bi-weekly talks for these semesters. We are very excited to have our first talk for this semester today, given by Mr. Ali Hassan from Amazon. He will give us introduction on the Amazon Web Services, how it's being used to support in the smart cities around the world. Mr. Ali Hassan was an alumni from UT, graduated from UT long time ago. And he currently working at the Amazon Smart Cities Vertical project, if I'm not mistaken, which is Amazon Web Service partner ecosystem for the Internet of Things. So without further ado, I will just pass the mic to you, and you can go ahead to
cool
your presentations.
Yeah, thanks. Thank you very much. Thanks for the opportunity. I'm happy to be here. Like explained earlier, my name is Ali Hassan. I basically lead the public sector IoT smart cities business development efforts. And what that means is we work closely with our customers and especially our partners. And partners could be consulting partners, ISVs, or companies that build solutions on AWS and help them leverage our AWS IoT services, our AI ML services for solutions focused on smart cities. So that could be smart lighting, smart parking, transportation, public safety, whatever the vertical is. If there's a partner that's providing some sort of solution, we would love to help them get started or get moving on AWS cloud and also adopt our IoT ML capabilities. So let me go ahead and share my screen. I'll do a short, oh, I can't share my screen. It says host is disabled, participant screen sharing.
Just give it another try.
Oh, there you go. Okay. Perfect. Now let's do. Oh, sorry, bear with me. I gotta give permissions. Seems a little annoying. Just give me 1 second. So yes. Oh. Okay, can you all see my screen now?
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect. Yeah, sorry for that. So I've already gone through the introduction of what I do. I've been with Amazon about 2.5, 3 years now. Prior to that, I was at Cisco. I was focused on IoT sales for about 12 years. So today, just high level, I wanted to focus on the smart cities vertical, but then before that, just some of the AWS IoT services and solutions we offer, and then touch a little bit on different partners that have worked with us and the solutions that they provide in this space for our end customers. So there's a bunch of different numbers that get thrown around smart cities, right? What smart cities initiatives look like. I've seen all sorts of numbers on spending. IDC tends to be a fairly reliable source. So the recent information I saw was about 190 billion in spending in smart cities by 2023. I'm sure this number will change with the pandemic and also with the infrastructure bill that's coming out in the US. I'm sure the spending is going to grow a little more, I suspect. Also, this is a global perspective, right? So I'm sure all of you are familiar. Smart cities tend to be a little more progressive outside of the US, like Asia Pacific, Europe, subcontinent, India. There's a lot more initiatives because they're driven from the top down government initiatives. And there's a lot of political will to move faster. The US has a bit of a different approach where we see more success over here in different verticals, whether it's transportation, public safety, health and human services, just citizen engagement. And that's how AWS approaches smart city in the US as well. We're focused very much on the specific vertical, and within that vertical, what are the specific use cases that our customers want to solve? So we kind of go after the challenges, the problems our customers are facing, and try to identify how do we apply technology and processes to help solve that. So, but then we have teams outside of the US, in Europe, in Asia Pacific, that are focused in those markets, and their strategy is a little more holistic, a little more centralized, ingest data from all different sources into a central platform dashboard that now gives you full visibility into everything. So multi-pronged approach depending on regions and depending on the engagement level. So a lot of our presentations for IoT or smart cities start with a simple question. If you knew the state of everything, and thing being devices, sensors, data, and could provide some sort of reason on top of that data, right? What problems would you solve? So we kind of move away from the technology discussion, and we want our customers and our partners to understand, hey, let's focus on the problems we're trying to solve. You know, is it traffic management? Is it congestion? Is it homelessness? Is it the opioid crisis? Is it energy management? Whatever your challenge is, let's focus on that and assume that we have data from everywhere, right? From all sensors, let's all assume it's connected. What would you like to solve? And then we'll work backwards from the customer problem to say, all right, how does technology help solve this problem? So that approach helps us look at initiatives from a holistic approach and not be focused on just technology, because technology alone can't really solve everything. You need people, you need process, you need all those things involved to help solve those challenges. Some of the use cases we're seeing with IoT, and some of this is commercial, some of this is public sector, is heavily in the industrial space, right? So factory automation, industrial automation, equipment, predictive maintenance, not so much in cities, but when you look at, we kind of tackle public sector overall. So outside of the cities, if you look at public sector like federal government, there's a lot of manufacturing taking place around shipbuilding and fighter jets and stuff, right? So those are like manufacturing plants. So we apply a lot of those technologies over there to help automate those factory environments. In healthcare, it's just remote monitoring, right? How do you connect all the different devices, the beds, the different devices that are being leveraged? In COVID, we saw a lot of this equipment being shared across states, across hospitals. How do you track this inventory? How do you get data? How do you create dashboards that help provide information to the citizens where we're feeling comfortable? We were all relying on that Johns Hopkins COVID dashboard during the pandemic to understand what's going on, right? Data provides a lot of insights. I mentioned transportation, whether it's connected vehicle, whether it's connected roadways, whether it's just simple stuff like traffic signal prioritization, traffic management. All of these are use cases where IoT sensors are providing a lot of value. And then within cities are obviously made up of infrastructure, roadways, but then buildings play an important part, whether it's campus, just like the UT campus, or any other campus, whether it's government buildings or just private buildings, right? How do buildings operate more efficiently? How do they operate more sustainably? And how do we provide the residents and the occupants comfort level through data to say, hey, we have sensors that are now telling us the air quality in the building is XYZ, right? Or we have cameras that are looking at temperatures to say, hey, everyone's in the building does not have a higher temperature level, right? Or the space occupation is in compliance with social distancing, right? So those kind of things, sensors are providing that data in dashboards to residents, which provides us comfort. And being inside a building or outside a building is a hot topic right now, right? Are we comfortable to go in an indoor environment? So a ton of use cases, but just IoT is playing a critical role across the board in all of this. So I want to spend a few minutes, not too deep, on the architecture and technology when it comes to IoT. So AWS, we feel, has the broadest and deepest set of services, not just in IoT, but overall just compute, right? So our infrastructure services around compute, storage, databases are very broad. We have a set of different services over there, and they're extremely scalable, extremely agile, and very easy to use for developers. So on top of that core infrastructure sits our higher level services, right? IoT is one of those services. The way we break down our IoT services is in 3 sections. One, we have a set of services focused on device software, the actual device itself. That device could be a microprocessor sensor, or it could be the actual edge gateway, right? So it's just a set of services focused on those hardware devices. The second layer above is control services, which target, all right, now that I have connected my devices, a fleet of devices, how do I control those devices, right? How do I manage them? If it's few devices like 10, 20, that's easy. But if you have hundreds, thousands, billions of devices, like for example, all the Alexa devices, Amazon Alexa, they leverage AWS IoT, and those are being shipped in the billions, right? So how do you manage at scale all these devices? And then how do I securely manage them? Because we want to make sure there's no rogue devices being plugged into the network and acting as a rogue agent. And then lastly, the data services on top say, all right, now that I've connected my devices, I've figured out how to manage them, I've extracted the data, I've brought it into the cloud. What value do I get from that? Because data alone sitting in databases and sitting in silos is pointless unless we apply some intelligence on top of that and get some sort of value from that data to say, all right, this is what this data is telling me, and this is how I should react to this. So we kind of break our services in those architectures. And then on top of, so IoT is focused heavily on just connecting devices, managing devices, extracting the data and bringing it into the cloud, and then connecting the data to the other services AWS provides around storage with S3, compute with EC2, and then a wide variety of databases we have, et cetera, right? But above that, this whole concept of AI and ML is very prevalent in the industry. So IoT, I feel, is incomplete without AI and ML, because AI and ML provides the value for us to get business insights and helps us justify this is why we connected the devices. This is why IoT was important, because AI and ML gave us this value. But AI and ML, I feel, is also a little misunderstood, right? These words are interchangeable. So a lot of people throw these terms around. The way we see it is artificial intelligence is this overarching umbrella, which basically says, hey, any technique that enables computers to mimic human intelligence, whether it's logic-based, whether it's if-then statements or actual machine learning, deep learning, all of that is artificial intelligence. Under that, machine learning, we consider a subset of artificial intelligence, which basically says, hey, if you're using machines, computers, to search patterns inside the data, that we consider as machine learning. So when we talk about predictive maintenance, pattern recognition, behaviors, that's where we're using machine learning models and algorithms to look at data and understand, all right, this is what the data is telling me. This is what the data is going to help me predict based on historical behavior. And then another subset of that is, now we've gone a step beyond. In machine learning, we were looking at data, we were applying logic, and we're looking at patterns. Now, what if we go one step forward and we look at deep learning and say, all right, deep learning is basically multi-layered neural networks that talk to each other and now are doing predictions or doing intelligent responses, speech recognition, right? Image recognition. We have a set of services around Lex, Poly, and we call it recognition, which look at images and can tell you stuff like the gender of a person in the image, male, female. Is it a human? Is it an animal? Is it a dog? Is it an object? Those kind of patterns, those kind of things you can recognize. That's your deep learning into an image or a video. And then even speech recognition, natural language processing, stuff that Alexa does. A lot of those services we take out and we provide. So I won't spend too much time over here, but those three segments I talked about in IoT are on the left side, and then all the AI ML services I talked about on the right side. So all these services are what make up the AIoT service portfolio, right? So on the bottom over here, I don't know if you can see my mouse moving, but on the bottom left, Greengrass is our edge compute device that sits on edge hardware that can connect to sensors and then extract data from those sensors and send that security up to the cloud. But then also you can run Lambda functions to provide some edge compute, edge intelligence, localized decision-making, right? If you're disconnected to the network, you can still provide some local decision-making. We have a Amazon FreeRTOS, which is basically a free operating system that you can install on the sensor itself, a microprocessor, for it to connect to Greengrass or to connect directly up to the cloud. Our control services are over here. IoT Core is a core engine in the cloud where all the data on the sensors connect back to. So that's kind of the core, as the name says. And then above that, we have some managed services like Sitewise. Sitewise is focused on the industrial space I was talking about, connecting sensors to machines, getting equipment data as like vibration sensors, temperature sensors to figure out if there's some predictive maintenance you could do, if there's equipment failure that's going to take place. So it's a managed service and a ton of different services around there, right? So this is the IoT portfolio, and it's ever growing. And then if we go through this virtuous cycle, on the right side is our set of AI ML services. SageMaker is basically our core machine learning platform. It provides a very broad infrastructure for data scientists or developers to connect and create their own models and stuff, right? But then on top of that, not everyone's an intense developer that does data science and stuff, right? So there's a lot of developers that don't want to deal with building models. They want to say, hey, we just want already models that are built. We want to connect an API and just be able to leverage the intelligence from that model. So that's where services like Recognition, which does image recognition, video recognition, Textract, a simple thing like I take a paper document with just like words on it. I scan it, I upload it to Textract. Textract will digitize it and turn it into a font for me. And now I can turn paper documents into digital text very simply, right? You don't have to worry about the algorithm behind it. You don't have to worry about the machine learning models or anything. You just want to use the service. So that's why we have these set of services that really simplify. And the whole idea is we want to democratize machine learning and make it easy for anyone to use. And you don't have to be a machine learning developer. So I won't go through all these, but there's Poly, which does voice, there's Transcribe, which is transcription, translation, etc. right? Forecasting for sales and stuff. So a ton of broad set of services across this. So all these services are available to everyone, right? Any customer can log into the AWS console and start using these services. Typically in public sector, we don't see a lot of customers building solutions themselves. Some do, but a lot of cities, mid-sized cities, they prefer to buy somewhat big solutions from partners. So partners play a very important role for AWS. This is just an example of some partners, but our partner ecosystem is over 100,000 partners globally, consulting and technology partners. A lot of them are focused on smart city solutions, lighting, parking, etc. And I'll touch on some of them if we have time. But I just want to highlight partners play a very important role, and everything from the edge all the way up to the connectivity, this outcomes. We have partners in all of these spaces that specialize in providing solutions based on AWS. So I want to focus a little bit on smart cities and share some examples of success we've had. So smart cities, right? Smart, the word smart is very loosely used. Everyone I talk to has a different definition of what smart means. So this is a very complex one, but basically I think, in my opinion, smart has a very different definition to everyone. Everyone's idea is different. The way we address it is, I kind of talked about this, and you need to have some sort of sensors capturing the data. You need to have that data integrated with real-time information, but then also some historical information. You need to be able to do some sort of modeling or machine learning on top of that data, and then visualize your outcomes or results in some dashboard. To us, that defines a project, a solution, a city as smart. When you've kind of gone through all these steps, then you've sort of become smart because now the data is giving you insight. So we use, more than smart, we use data-driven as a term. So data-driven cities, data-driven communities. To us, that's a little more impactful. So I think I'll start wrapping up by sharing some examples. Chicago developed something called the Chicago Open Grid, and this is openly available to everyone. They built, their CIO realized that they have data in different silos between the IT teams, and their data is not interconnected. So they created this central data portal for internal use to connect all this data, a data warehouse, streamline it, and now expose it so that any department in the city could leverage data from the other department and get insight and start making decisions based on that. They got so much value from that they decided, you know what, we should open this up to the city and externally to anyone and create, they call it the Windy Grid for internal purposes, but then now they have something called Chicago Open Grid, which is based on AWS, open to the public. So anyone can go in, search an area and say, all right, what are the common 311 services around me, which are completed, which are open, you know, which restaurants in my neighborhood are passing inspection, which streets are closed, what is the police situation? So I can interact with my city just because of this open data portal. And now I'm a more valued citizen, I'm a more engaged citizen, and sensors play an important role over here because you're getting status of road conditions, traffic signals, everything displayed and now centrally shared with the citizens. So to us, that's a very smart solution that's going through all those 4 steps and providing value, not just to the city, but then even to the citizens in the end. Another example is Detroit manages over 800 traffic signals, and they were not connected. So they had zero visibility into the status of these signals. Anytime a signal would go down, it would take them 8 hours before they were notified. Someone would go out, the truck roll, they would identify the problem, they would solve it. And you can imagine the traffic congestion that would cause, right? So it was a significant problem. So through a partner of ours, there's a partner called MyoVision. They have a solution called Traffic Link. It's all based on AWS IoT. MyoVision uses AWS IoT to remotely connect. They have edge devices at the traffic signals that remotely connect all of these traffic signal equipment to a central dashboard in the cloud. So Detroit used that, and they all of a sudden got visibility across all their traffic signals. Right? This was immensely valuable to them because now they were resolving traffic signal issues. First of all, they were getting notified proactively because of the connectivity. Secondly, they were resolving these issues in 2 hours as opposed to 8 hours. So that's a significant saving in response time. And that solved 30% reduction in travel times just because traffic was flowing better. And then even the emergency vehicles that would respond to an event, those vehicles were responding 20% faster just because of the traffic flows. So just a simple IoT solution, connecting the signals provided immense value to the city. And then now that they had connectivity to those signals, they added stuff like putting a camera, intelligent camera that could do traffic patterns and tell you when an accident takes place, pedestrian counting, traffic counting. So they were getting more use cases and more insights just by taking that first step of connecting all the sensors and traffic signals. I think this is my last example I'll share is Rubicon. Rubicon is another partner that does waste management. This is very unique. They have trucks, a fleet of trucks that roam around the entire city collecting waste, garbage waste. So obviously they use IoT solutions to leverage their fleet management of the actual fleet. But then they realized our trucks are in and around the city every day. And they are uniquely positioned to become mobile data centers. So they started attaching a bunch of sensors on their trucks, cameras, road condition sensors, air quality sensors. And they started extracting all this data while their trucks were on the road every day and ingesting this into a central dashboard, which they call their smart city platform, Rubicon Smart City. And now they provided the service to the cities to say, hey, on top of the the waste management services that we're providing, we can also give you data on your road conditions. We can give you data on your environmentals. We can give you data on any fire hydrant on the side, maybe that's blown up, right? Potholes, because our trucks are actively capturing this information. So the cities are benefiting from this because now you have instant visibility without deploying assets on your roadway. You're leveraging the data center, the mobile data centers that Rubicon has created. So very unique ways of addressing the same problems. And that's where the connection of sensors and the cloud comes into play, because again, scale, agility, all comes with the power of the AWS cloud. How am I doing on time? Am I good?
Yeah, I think a good time to wrap up. I want to keep it short, and there's also already a couple of questions.
Okay, perfect. So I'll skip some of this. The last thing I wanted to share as my last slide is in Europe, there's an organization called FIWARE, FIWARE. You may have heard of them. They're basically a smart city consortium. They work with another organization called OASC, which is Open and Agile Smart City. AWS has partnered with OASC, and FIWARE has created a smart city framework for all different countries to start interconnecting securely and while keeping privacy and autonomy of data in mind. Irrespective of all the underlying components, you can now ingest data into central portals, interconnect, and operate as one smart entity, right? So there's about 190 different countries in Europe that are signed up with FIWARE. FireWire is starting to make inroads in North America as well. AWS is working with FireWire to create an AWS version of this architecture. So this is a high-level example of that. The idea is you ingest data, any sort of data, not just IoT, but whatever other data, your social media data, anything from your partners and from your citizens, and you use a next generation API into a central context broker. This is deployed into the cloud. And this context broker now looks at the data coming in, understands the context of the data, what it's trying to solve, and then based on the request, will route this data to the right application and to the right sensors down below, right? So that acts as a core central platform that is now routing data and allows the cities to build this framework. And we are working closely with FireWire, so we're looking to expand this with cities in the US as well. So with that, I'll stop over there and open up for questions if there are any. Hope that was valuable.
It's very good talk. Sharon, do you want to go ahead with your question?
Sure. Thank you very much. Very interesting. Our team, and I suspect a lot of the folks here, are really interested in how data are used in the context of oversight and standards and ethics. One of our big projects here has the word ethics in it. And I had posted a question about whether you find the cities are primarily working with you directly, which would suggest they might have their own policies, or whether in fact the example that you gave of the first example, was it Mayo?
MyVision.
Yeah. If that's more common, where they're using third parties. And as a follow-up to that, where I'm going with that is, who decides who has access to the data and what they can do with it and how long it's retained and so forth?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so there's a couple of questions in there, so I'll try to address them as I recall, but if I miss any, just let me know. So first, I'll try to address the security compliance thing, right? So AWS has this shared security model. The idea is there's two aspects of security. The security of the cloud, which is talking about the physical security of the data infrastructure, the data centers that we provide, the actual security of all the underlying components like the servers, the EC2 services and everything. All of that is AWS responsibility, right? The infrastructure, physical and logical infrastructure, virtual, it's all AWS responsibility. We will make sure it's secure. We will always make sure it's compliant with all the different government or healthcare, whatever requirements. So there's security of the cloud, and then the security in the cloud, right? The application that customers build on top of it, how they design their application, the security features they use to design it, that is the responsibility of the end customer, right? So we take full responsibility for the security of the cloud, but anything you build on top of that, from a responsibility perspective, we say that is the responsibility of the developer or the end customer. Having said that, we have a very robust set of security services. First of all, security is baked into all of our services inherently, right? So when I talk about AWS IoT Core and Greengrass and stuff, they all have security elements built into them. On top of that, we provide security services, right? So this, and like I mentioned, AWS has a broad set of services. So we have a set of services around identity management, cybersecurity, DDoS attack, whatever, right? And then even in the IoT space, you saw we had a service called IoT Device Defender, which is a service that you can implement to make sure all the devices that are being connected are secure, are compliant with your policy, and there's no rogue devices being connected. So we provide these services and we provide security best practices, and we have something called well-architected framework. We'll work with you to make sure that the application you're designing is based on best practices. It addresses security and you're using all the right services from AWS to make sure it's the best, most secure application you can build. So that's kind of the security side. From the compliance side, we actually, so like I said, again, the cloud infrastructure is compliant with all the different environments. We have this concept of regions. So we have East, West commercial regions, and then globally we have different regions. In the US, we have something called GovCloud, government cloud, which is a separate region, which has the same level of security as all our other regions, which is the highest level we provide. But from a compliance perspective, GovCloud is compliant with government compliances like FedRAMP, ITAR, CGIS, and any other compliance. And then outside of GovCloud, we have HIPAA and stuff. So we provide those compliant says in the GovCloud environment. So if you want to deploy a FedRAMP compliant solution, we urge you go deploy it in GovCloud because that region is built for that. On top of that, if you want your application to get some sort of certification, so you want to get FedRAMP certified, or you want to get CJIS criminal data certified, right? We have programs in our APN program. So we have a group called ATO on AWS, which is authority to operate. Our teams will work with you to help guide you through that compliance process. We don't do the compliance. That's the responsibility of the end customer or the partner to get the compliance, but we have best practices, we have recommendation. We can basically guide you soup to nuts. We can bring in partners to say, hey, if you want to get FedRAMP compliant, this is how we suggest you do it. Let's work on this together. Let's, for the next 90 days or 6 months, interact and make sure you get to that end result, right?
Yeah.
So we have all these services in the cloud, but then also we provide them to our end customers.
Okay.
So I think I covered the security compliance, and there was a couple other things which I'm forgetting you talked about.
Yeah, no, it's that's very helpful. Your security services, it sounds like, are very inward looking, protecting the integrity of the data and so forth. The cities that you mentioned in your talk, Chicago and Detroit, you probably have a lot more, are among the cities that actually don't have any public ordinances yet. There's only maybe close to 20 cities in the country that have true ordinances governing this. So I was just sort of curious if you've worked, Seattle is one.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're based in Seattle or not, but just wondering if Amazon has any formal relationship. But I also don't want to keep other people from asking different kinds
No,
of
that's all right.
questions.
No, that's all right. So you're right. At the end of the day, you're right. It's different in every city. Every city's policies around data governance and is different. And some, you're right, some have ordinances, most do not. And again, also in the US, outside the US is a whole different story.
Yep.
At the end of the day, for us, AWS we're very customer obsessed, right? So we kind of work very closely with, and for us, the customer is the end customer, so the city. So whatever every city's policy is, if they have it defined, great. If they don't have it defined, we'll work with them to understand what are some of the critical things you want to address around privacy policy. And we want to make sure that we work backwards from that and provide the right solutions and services to help attain that goal, right? So we don't come with a prescriptive model to say, this is how you should govern your data, right? We kind of work backwards to say, what is your requirements? And we'll provide all the resources we need to help achieve that. And then I think you had also asked about who makes or who owns the data and how the interaction is taking place.
Yes.
Again, city to city is different. In some cities, we're working directly with the city. Their IT departments, their data departments are skilled well enough and staffed well enough to say, you know what, we can build our own solutions. It doesn't happen often, but it does happen. Some of the larger cities. So in those cases, we're working directly with cities like in Chicago to build these solutions. Most cities, like I mentioned in the beginning, prefer to work with partners that can help build this for them. So in those cases, like my vision, we have a broad set of ISVs or partners. So it's a mix of both. In some cases, the city goes to the partner solution provider and says, hey, help me solve this problem. And the partner comes to us and says, we build a solution, how we optimize it for this requirement. In other cases, we'll work directly with the city to say, let's just build something together, right? So it works both ways. And yeah, the same thing goes for compliance and stuff. It's whatever the end customer wants, we'll adhere to those requirements.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you very much. I think we're already 5 minutes over our scheduled time, so I don't want to keep everyone here for too long. So thanks for coming today. And if you have further questions, we will be happy to connecting you with Ali after the presentations. And also, if you're interested, we have our future and past recording in the website, which I post in the channel. So thank you very much again, Ali Hassan. It's a very good talk, very interesting. Thanks for everyone.
Thank you. Pleasure. It's a pleasure meeting you all, and thanks for the opportunity.
Thanks.
Thank you. Very nice talk. Thank you.